So in this video, I'm going to show you guys some super simple tricks that you can make your any Nikon DSLR battery last longer. So if you're a frequent Nikon DSLR user like me, whether that's for videos and photos, you notice that Nikon cameras don't have the best battery life. But here are 3 quick, simple tricks that you can do to make your battery life last longer. So if you have a Nikon D5000 or 3000 models, chances are your camera came with this battery. It is the Nikon EN-EL14, and if it comes from the original manufacturer that you bought, chances are you only have the Nikon EN-EL14, which is black. The difference is between the black battery and this battery is that this battery is actually 200 more milliamps. So in other words, it has a higher battery charge, so your camera can last longer. You think that 200 milliamps isn't a huge deal, but for me, that is the difference between getting the shot and not getting the shot. So if you use Nikon cameras, invest in some of the EN-EL14A batteries. And roughly for me, these batteries last continuously for around 40 minutes. And on a typical day shoot of like 8 hours of filming on a Nikon camera, for videos, I use roughly no more than 4 of these Nikon EL-EA4 batteries. So tip number 1, invest in the manufacturer, the original. Don't get any of those like third-party batteries. Original manufacturer EN-EL14A batteries. The black battery lasts, I would say, 20 minutes nonstop. This adds on another half an hour, not 10 minutes. So that makes a huge difference. So gray batteries over the black batteries. And in order to install and make the proper use so that your camera can actually hold on to the charge, you also want to make sure your camera has the latest firmware update. Simple tip number 2 to make your Nikon camera, this right here is my D5200, to last longer is most people, when they turn on their camera, they have their LCD screen right up against the camera body, which, you know, is understandable if you're shooting video or photos. But the thing is, heat makes your battery lose its power. So you want to keep your camera as cool as possible to prevent overheating. So as you can see here, the LCD screen, you put here, there's essentially a bunch of wires and panels here, like a circuit board. So you put this circuit board against this, which is the camera's internal circuit board. Guess that what happens? That kind of conducts heat. So one simple trick is all you need to do is, instead of having it up against here, I usually have it out here in this mode, which is so important why you would want an articulating screen. In other words, there's more airflow. Even though it might not make a huge difference, it does make a difference in battery life, since when I film videos, I like to keep the LCD screen out here instead of up against the camera. So that's a quick tip for you. And here's another bonus tip. You don't always want to autofocus, especially if you're running low on battery power. The thing is, Nikon cameras last anywhere from like 20 minutes to 30 minutes continuous non-stop shooting. So if your camera is always on autofocus, and every time you have pressed the shutter, guess what you're using? You're using the battery to make the camera autofocus. So if you're really low in battery and you don't want to kill your battery really quick, all you need to do is hit manual, and then you would need to manual focus. And although manual focus might be tricky on a Nikon camera to start with, once you get the hang of it, it's not that hard. So if you're really low on battery, manual focus would save that extra 1 or 2 shots that you may or may not need. So then your battery, if you ever worry about having your battery dying. So that's a bonus tip for you. Autofocusing will also drain your battery. Same also applies if your camera has vibration reduction or optical stabilization. If you're using anything like a tripod and you're not really moving your camera or hand holding it, you also want to turn off your optical stabilization, because that also uses the power within the Nikon body. So then to save you more power, you want to turn that off. But if you're obviously run and gun, you want that on. But also be aware that this also drains your camera battery power. My last and final tip of how you make your Nikon camera last longer is that you want to go on menu. Then you want to go to the tool icon here, which is essentially setup menu, and you want to go to monitor brightness. Once you go into monitor brightness, obviously it depends on your situation. If you're outdoors, you're obviously going to need to put your monitor brightness all the way up to 3. But if you're indoors, there's no really point to have it on +3 monitor brightness, because the brighter the screen is, kind of common sense, is that the more battery your camera's going to be using to power this screen. So I like to keep it at -1 so that I can still see the proper exposure, but I'm not draining my battery by having it on +3 monitor brightness. So I usually have it when I'm filming indoors on -1. And those are my quick 3 simple tips on how you make your Nikon, whether that's a D5000, 52, 53, 55, 56, or any of the D3400 models, of how you can make your camera last longer. And the cool thing about this is you can also apply it to any entry-level DSLR, because these things will also work. And my name is Peter. You're watching Broke Visionary Collective, where we all start with nothing, but you can always create something.